What's that song called?
DIY.
DIY Prison Cells.
Now this song is probably in contention with like my favorite songs on the album.
This was the first track that we were like, all right, this is setting up the groundwork for the record. This was the first demo we had finished, vocals and all, just so we could kind of sit with it. And I think it kind of set a tone for what the rest of the record was going to sound like.
There wasn't a whole lot of change to anything. The song just kind of came naturally.
If I recall, it was the first one that we actually played all together in the space, and didn't really change too much from the demo.
I remember when Kevin first wrote that track and presented that opening sequence to us, just that energy, it was like we immediately knew what we wanted to do. I immediately knew what I wanted to do.
It has everything I like about Too Late the Hero in one song. It has a fucking killer riff that you have to bob your head to.
The riff, now this is a Kevin riff. This is such a slammer. You know, it would give the fucking an old man a boner. It's a Viagra riff. Just really does it. That's the worst.
I wrote that. I was waiting for my friend Phil to get beer, and I was sitting in his truck, and I started just humming that riff to myself, and I just voice memoed it, and then took it home and wrote the riff out of it.
The hook of this song is also one of my favorites. So it kind of has it all. It embodies Too Late the Hero 100%.
It's got the woes in the chorus. I had missed woes. We hadn't done woes in a while, and I was really excited about that.
Yeah, the woes are a big thing in this song. I feel like we kind of tried to steer away from that, because that's lame. But I think another general theme of this record is we didn't really give as much of a shit about this one. Not to say we didn't care, but we weren't like trying to be any certain thing. Whatever it came out as is what it was.
When Duncan joined, I was so excited to have this incredible singer in the band that I wrote parts specifically knowing that I wanted him to sing.
I think it was really cool that Jared appreciated me as a vocalist in a way that he made it a focus to include a lot of my singing on this song.
I don't think he was planning on it when he joined the band, but I was like, I got parts. We're doing like Taking Back Sunday style, back and forth parts.
The pre-chorus, for example, doesn't have Jared in it at all.
Full of promise, now it's dull and lifeless.
Like, that's just Jack and Duncan. You know, normally with some of the bands that I hear and work with, and even us sometimes, we'll overwrite vocal parts that can't be pulled off live. But with having three powerhouse vocalists, now we can do all of that stuff. So I think it kind of pushed us to get even sillier with a lot of that stuff.
Rick's performance is really cool on it. You know, it's got a bass solo for Duncan, you know. Duncan, we had to show you a little love, baby.
This was also, I think this was the first song that we recorded in the room. I was the first one to cut my parts for the record, so I was super nervous coming into it. I felt like I had the least amount of time with the material. Kevin was like hungover, he felt shitty. I had a bunch of friends that were in from out of town that were all in the room with Kevin. And I felt like it was like I was playing a live show, but I was also playing the record. Him and I recorded together so many times, so many hours, but this is the first time that him and I were recording Too Late material together. And I don't think I've had Kevin yell at me as much as he had in the recording of this, because Kevin is the type of producer that will pull the best performances out of you, and he knows how to do it in a way. He knows how to like piss you off in just that way to where you want to like prove him wrong with your next take.
It even has like a really cool riff that I did. Kev, that was in the verse, right? The second verse, yeah, it's like a bent fucking fourth riff that I did, and like, you guys don't know what that is or care, but it sounded hot. It sounds hot. Take my word for it.
Don't underestimate your audience. Disrespectful.
Well,
you don't know shit. You don't read.
You fuckers don't know
how to read.
You don't know how to riff, dude. That's why you come to us.
I'm usually a very literal lyricist. Like this guy went here and did this, and that sucked, and I don't really
and sometimes the lyrics can be a little silly. And I tried to look back on some of the songs and some of the lyrics that I loved, that have like stuck with me since I was like a teenager. And I was thinking about artists like Jawbox, Deftones, Sunny Day Real Estate, even weird things like Regina Spektor. I looked at what I loved about those lyrics, and a lot of it was like really open to interpretation, and a lot of it's like focused on imagery. Maybe you don't necessarily know what the song's about, but you can still relate to it. So I was really trying on this record to like try to paint a picture and try to set up a scenario and kind of leave it open for interpretation. With DIY Prison Cells, that was also the first time I really tried that without really hitting anybody over the head about what the song's about, because the song's actually about something very specific. This song was about someone who has the exact same life as me. Pretty much, I came to realize that this person feels like a failure, but I was really happy with where I was in my life. I thought it was fascinating that I could run a parallel life with this person. They could feel like a failure, and I could feel like a success in like my personal life and just in general. And so I thought that he was in a prison of his own making due to his expectations. So I tried to paint this picture of this, you know, like a beautiful mind, like this guy with his expectations of his life all over the wall and like losing his mind and some aviator shit, like pissing in jars and stuff. And so I thought for the first experiment in trying to write a song that way, I was pretty happy with the results. So I love this song. Track 2. What is the fucking name of that song anyway?
What did you do and where did you do it?
What'd you do and who'd you do it with?
All right, this song is called "Who Were You When You Thought You Knew Yourself."
Called how
did you know?
how are
What
you?
did you know?
It's called How Are You?
What did you know? Have you heard of it?
What did you know and when did you know it? I'm not even gonna say the name. Someone else is gonna have to say it. 'Cause I have to look it up.
Track 2.
Track 2 on the record. I did name it, but I'm an idiot and I name things dumb things.
Track 2, what did you know and when did you know it?
This one was a Donkey song, and I'm still mad at him about it because it's super hard. He claims that he wrote it a long time ago and played it on guitar, and I don't think he did.
The first time that I showed this song to the world was probably about 3 years before it was actually released. There's a shirtless video of me somewhere on Instagram of me playing the beginning on guitar. I had just gotten a Telly that my girlfriend bought me, and that was the first song I wrote on it. So find that on Instagram. You don't have to do that.
I think he wrote it on the computer with like a guitar thing and was like, here, play this. This is the song. And I was like, you can't physically play this. But then he did, and then I had to figure it out, and it was garbage. But it's a really good song. It's one of my favorite ones.
Duncan, when he joined, he had just come from a band where he pretty much wrote everything in that band. And Too Late the Hero tends to be a really collaborative band. And when he first joined, he literally was like, guys, what do you want me to do? Can I like write songs? Do you want me to bring riffs? Like, and we know that he was capable of just straight up being the band if he wanted. So we were like, whatever you feel like, man, do whatever speaks to you.
Duncan basically sent this song finished. He wrote it, and it could have been on Is This Thing On? That's kind of an interesting sentence I just made, but
That song was my first attempt at trying to write Too Late the Hero riffs or a Too Late the Hero song. And I've always known Too Late as a really technical band, and I just basically went into it as, okay, I have to make this song as technical and difficult and flashy as possible.
it's got really difficult riffs. And I remember Kevin and I being like, what the frig were you doing, dude? Like, we can't play this stuff. And it turns out, like, I was like really frustrated trying to learn it.
That basically resulted in all of the other members hating me because the riffs are fucking stupid to play.
And it was very reminiscent of exactly what you would want out of a Too Late song. It had the hot riffs, it was fast, it was catchy, For me, as a drummer, the drum parts that he had orchestrated were super cool, although some of them were a little not necessarily out of reach, but we were like looking at him in that way of, so are we planning on playing this song live?
When it came to the lyrics, this song is actually one of 3 songs on the record that Jack really took the reins and wrote the lyrics for. And you can usually tell which songs those are because they're the ones with like the better lyrics.
I think I wrote the lyrics to it, and
Yes.
and yeah, I guess I wrote the lyrics, some of the lyrics, and I demoed some vocals for it.
Also, let's just talk about this right now. Had no idea that Jack could write vocals as well as he did and does. There's a few songs on this record where the intent was for him to just come up with placeholder lyrics that are on the record because they're just good, and he just shits them out, and I don't know where they come from.
We're just kind of we're kind of in that zone, and Jared was like, "Do your thing, guys. If it's cool, we'll use it." And the really nice thing was we were all in agreement that if something just wasn't that good, we just weren't going to be heard about it. We just moved on, and it was just like, use it or not. It's just there for you.
So Jack wrote basically the first half of the song, Jared wrote the second half, and Jack just screamed all the verse parts. The verse was originally all screaming.
He had written it as like screamed verses, which was it was awesome. And then one day I was playing the demo, the instrumental demo for my friend Pat O'Connell. He used to be in a band called Sparks to Rescue. And I was playing a bunch of the songs without any of the lyrics or anything. And when I came to that song, he was like, "There's fucking Too Late the Hero. This sounds like what you guys used to do when I liked you." No, I was kidding.
And it most reminds me of old Too Late, like when I joined just after Is This Thing On came out along with Jack. And this song gives me that vibe, so it kind of like puts me back in that headspace 10 goddamn years ago.
So it kind of inspired me to take it in another direction. So I took the screaming part Jack wrote. I actually kept the exact same meter and the exact same words Jack had for the screaming part, and I just wrote a melody.
Like a whole melody for it using the same meter, and it worked awesome. Like, wouldn't have it any other way. Definitely awesome song.
Track 3, all your favorite lines. This one, another one of my favorites to play and both to listen to. Another very collaborative song.
This one is weird. This is like kind of a cluster of a whole bunch of riffs that I had.
This was one of the ones that we worked on in my apartment, and I had demoed this, like the software drum parts out before I got to play them in the room. It was one of those songs that we had a couple keeper riffs, and we're like, okay, we're gonna save this for later because we have no idea what the pre-chorus or the intro riff of the song is.
You know, threw in the Dropbox so that Kevin could kind of just go hog wild. I was like, I was stuck.
And Jack writes in a different way than I do, in a way that I wouldn't think to. So when I play them, I feel like I'm kind of like widening my margins as to the kind of stuff that I feel like I get good at. When I just had some downtime, I put the song together and sent it to them. I just put it in the Dropbox. I was like, hey, I just threw this together. Like, what do you guys think?
Kevin took him and he put the Elmer's glue on him.
He had it for all of like 2 days or something, and he came back with a version of it. Like the parts that he wrote for, to tie those riffs together really like made it a Too Late song.
But we needed a chorus, and I wanted like an old, like early 2000s, like breakdown chorus.
Sometimes me and Kevin can be on the same wavelength without communicating, because I listened to the whole song, and me and Duncan looked at each other, and Duncan was like, structure seems weird. And I was like, I hope they realize that the breakdown is the chorus.
And Jared was concerned that he knew that the breakdown was the chorus, or the chorus was the breakdown.
The chorus of the song didn't have the lead on it yet, and it also was more palm muted, so it was a pretty distinct breakdown.
And I think he was concerned that I didn't know that, when that was technically my intention.
I think that's what I want to do with it, and I hope they don't get mad when I'm singing over the breakdown. Kevin called, he's like, what'd you think of the demo? And I told him that, and he's like, no, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is the chorus, that's what I wanted. And I was like, thank God, because I didn't want to have that fight.
Jared told me that one of the lyrics in this song is referring back to an older song.
In this song, I kind of apologize about in the early days doing that classic emo thing and like yelling at chicks and shit.
Referring to a lyric that he didn't like, and when he told me what lyric that was, I was like, fuck man, that's been one of my favorite lyrics from a Too Late song ever.
So I threw that one line in because all the lines that I've written that I think are most cringy are the lines that like people come up to me, they're like, that's the best fucking thing you've ever written. And I'm like, really? God damn it.
And then, you know, I got the bright idea that I was going to do solo on this sumbitch. And every Too Late record has one solo by me and Kevin, like respectively. So this was my solo, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it to the limit, right? I'm going to throw all my tricks in it and really give it the, you know, the Jack special, everything I had. So I went bonkers on it, and boy, oh boy, do I regret that. Like, Kevin's like, you're really gonna do that stuff in it? You really gonna take it that far, Jack? And then I'm like, yeah, I got it. It's fine. Kevin's like, it sounds sick, so you can pull it off. And I pulled it off, like, barely. So that solo, whenever that comes up when we're playing it in the room, I have to like put my glasses down and give Kev a little nod, like here comes the sewer water, and then I just go for it, throw the wah on. If you guys don't know, if you throw a wah on a solo, you can just do whatever you want, and then that's kind of what I'm gonna be doing live. If you ever see me, if you think it sounds cool, yeah, well, it's because the wah, so. Royal Blood Loss. Now this is, I think unanimously, this is like one of our favorite songs.
Is, I think, everyone's favorite song on the album.
Definitely my favorite song on the record.
The song that I wish we could write an entire record of, basically.
It's the type of song that I think we've always wanted to write and just never have.
I don't know why it took us this long to write a song this way. Totally happened by accident. Didn't plan on writing a song like this.
That song came together exactly how you want every song to come together when you're writing as a cohesive unit and you're all in the room together.
It came together in maybe 45 minutes.
You know, every one of our practices is usually people are setting up and like getting warmed up, getting their gear plugged in, and there's always like somebody noodling on something, or I'm making noise on my drums and somebody's yelling at me to stop.
Kevin informs me, you know, everything's hazy. Everybody has a different way this went down, but it's all kind of the same. I started with a part, whether it be the chords or the picky part. Kev says it's the chords, Kev.
It's the chords.
He says it's the chords, everybody.
So Jack just started playing these two chords over and over, and I think he was like playing around with different reverbs or delays or whatever it was. And then I started playing them on the same loop that he was. And then he took it upon himself to come up with this cool little like plinky guitar lead over the top of it.
You know, I got my my Edge from U2 vibes going. You know, I did like a and that's cool. You know, in this world we live in, it's cool to do pedals.
We just kind of jammed on it, which we do from time to time. We'll just like grab onto a riff or something and just start jamming on it until we, you know, run out of ideas, or it's like, okay, well, it's time to actually start practicing. But we like ran with this idea, and before we knew it, we had like a chorus kind of thing.
Like it kind of snowballed from there, and I think we had the entire song done in one practice.
Yeah, I think Jared had come in like at the back half of practice, and were like, hey, we got this really cool thing that you need to hear.
And then Jared shows up. Everybody says he shows up. Jared could have been there the whole time, as far as I fucking know.
And we played it for him, and he pulled out his cell phone and we recorded it on a shitty voice memo, but we knew we had something. We're like, this has got to make it onto the record.
I recorded the demo on my cell phone, voice memo, and It was awesome. We didn't change the structure at all. And really quickly, like a week later, I went into the studio with Kevin. Kevin put the voice memo into Pro Tools, and I tracked demo vocals onto that voice memo.
So yeah, so he was just singing whatever sounded good aesthetically over the melody.
My process for writing vocals is I usually write a melody with like filler lyrics, like gibberish almost. And that's what I was doing.
And it was supposed to just be nonsense words, but it ended up being sick, and it's what the chorus is now.
The lyrics in the chorus are the filler lyrics I came up with on the spot in the vocal booth. And Kevin was talking to me. We both were having like an emotional like reaction to these filler meaningless lyrics. And he's like, those need to stay. So I had to sit back and kind of be like, what am I saying that's like resonating? Like, why is this like hitting an emotional chord in me? I kind of reverse engineered it, figured out what I was talking about, and then wrote the rest of the lyrics around it.
I forget which part it was. I think it was the pre-chorus. He couldn't get the vibe right. He just like hit on this right feeling for the chorus that kind of summed up what the rest of the song needed to be. He set the bar really high, and he just like wasn't in that same headspace for the pre-chorus. So I'm sitting in here while he's tracking like over the talkback, screaming at him, like trying to make him think about shit in his life that just got him super bummed out. And after like 30 seconds of me just screaming at the top of my lungs, like hit it once, and I was like, yep, that's what I was looking for. Punched the talkback. I was like, that's it!
This was the first song that we got back fully mixed from Kevin. I remember listening to it in my car on repeat with my friend Keanu. Shout out Roseview. Fuck Keanu. The song would end and he would say, start it over, start it over.
The whole point is the song is dope. Legitimately, everything about this song is good. Like in my opinion, there's not a part that is lacking.
Definitely has one of my favorite Jared lyrics in that song, in the second pre-chorus. I don't know, it just hits me every time. Now I understand that I'm just something you grow out of. Thank you, Jared. I love that lyric so much.
So the chorus is just this like explosive 3-part.
Focus, we're ascending towards you.
Just like as if on top of a mountain. I think we tried to have other people do harmonies on this one, but it wasn't catching the vibe right. So I think Jared just tracked all of them for this. And then Jack came up with this cool little...
So certain it's a gruesome man for a...
Jack came up with this little it doesn't sound like it's anything, but it's this little 3-note drop that he was just humming along with it. And I was like, I hit the talkback. I was like, Jack, do that to him again. So then Jared tracked that, and it just made that whole bridge. So this song was nothing but just like this shit just falling in our laps. And I wish we wrote more songs like this.
Ghouls and Ghosts. What a journey this song was.
That's the song that sucked ass to write.
This song was a giant pain in the dick. I think this song had like 40 some odd versions of it.
Ghouls and Ghosts is another song that made the other band members hate me.
Duncan came in with a bunch of awesome riffs and was like, I think these are a song, but there wasn't a real like structure.
A lot of the riffs were a lot more complicated than they are now because he's young and spry and Jack and I are not that.
Fuck that riff. The intro riff was stupid. I don't know what I was thinking, but fuck it.
It had some of the hottest riffs, and it came out of left field, and that's that's kind of how Duncan stuff is. He'll send us something on Dropbox. He's like, "What do you guys think?" We're like, "Yeah, it's sick, dude. You're the best guitarist in the band."
Basically, I think the problem with the riff was that I wrote it while thinking mathematically instead of musically. I did it with like a number pattern and not a musical one, and it made it really fucky, which I think is sick.
And we spent literally like 2 months, maybe more, in the practice space, just trying to work out a structure for this song.
We tried our best at all facets to put these parts together and really like meld them in a positive way, and it was entirely thwarted every 2 fucking seconds. Somebody had a different idea, somebody else didn't like something, and it was all like valid.
But eventually, I don't know what happened. I distinctly remember we had a practice, we were all in the live room, and we had finally gotten like a version of it. It's like, oh, we've done it. We've done it, boys. Like, get a take of it, somebody take out their damn phone, get it, and we're done with it. We don't touch this thing again until we go to the record. So we had that version. And then we're in like the pre-production phases of the record, and it's like, okay, let's pull up Ghouls and Ghosts. We went to play it, and it was like, wait a minute, this isn't the complete version. Something's missing here. And then it's like we were all scrambling. We're like going through Dropbox and going through our emails and stuff, and we're like, who's got the final version of the song that we wrote? And nobody could find it. And somewhere in the ether of the internet, there's a version of this song that exists that never saw the light of day outside of our ears in the day that we played it in that room and whoever's phone it ended up on.
Eventually it got to a point where one of the guys was like, I can't do this anymore. Fuck this. Someone just needs to go home and finish this song.
It brought up my dark side. My Kylo Ren finally was like, guys, I'm losing it. I like fucking hate this song. I hate this song now. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. I can't even tell what it is anymore. I've had it. Somebody figure it out. And like, this is like after we had pretty much like written it. We were like everybody else was in high spirits. And I'm the guy who's like, fuck it. I fucking hate it. I don't ever want to play it again, you know? And that's like, if you guys don't know me very well, that's like, that is me. Like I'm the worst. So.
And Duncan actually took it home, did his due diligence, came up with a structure, and then literally at the next practice, they threw all that out and started again.
And at first I was kind of like, oh, okay, I like my wife. But then I listened to it, I realized how Kevin's version tied the song together and grew to love it.
Then, to make matters worse, when I heard that the song was done, I took the demo and wrote and recorded my vocals on it. And come to find out, I wrote and recorded my vocals on the demo that Duncan had done that had been thrown out like a month ago. So, kind of had to rearrange things to make it match the current demo.
I don't even know how the vocals came to be on this song. They appeared out of nowhere, apparently. Because I just remember him being done.
I recorded a lot of the demo vocals at Duncan's studio in his basement, and it's always funny when you base a chorus around a gang vocal. When we recorded the gang vocals for the chorus of that song, it was just me and Duncan. Like a bunch of me and Duncan just hollering, and it really, really sounded silly.
He played the chorus, and the gang vocals that are now on the record were just a bunch of him and Duncan just yelling. And 2 people, it's kind of hard to make it sound like a gang, but they somehow did it. So he was very not confident with what he brought in, and I was like, no, this is literally perfect. I don't really know if we changed anything in this chorus.
I was like, when you listen to it, sounds silly, but I think it's gonna be cool when all said and done.
So people who donated to our crowdfunding to pay for the record, a certain number of them got to come contribute to gang vocals.
They sat in that live room and they just had a holler, you know?
One of the harder songs to mix, just this part, because there's so much shit happening. So you got the gang vocals happening that are also being accompanied by Jack and Duncan, and then Jared's trying to fight for his life to get heard over the top of that.
So I round and gagged with shots, taking shelter, and I promise.
And then
Crowd exclusion, false cathedral.
so yeah, Jared had to make a bunch of people who have never done gangs before sing his weirdo words.
and it was really cool to hear that chorus finally come to life. We had all these people in recording it and singing it, and it was really cool.
This has my favorite bridge on the record. Again, the 3-part boys, the old barbershops. Jared and Jack come in with this one first, and then Duncan comes in on.
I wish I could explain to you why I don't wanna be saved.
Which is, that's angelic, if I may say so myself.
And that is all I remember about this song, but it's legitimately, this is one of the most fun songs to play. We add it into every set that we do.
And when all is said and done, it's probably the best song on the record, and we love it, and other people love it, and I guess it was worth it, but dear God, that was a lot of bullshit.
Hey, this is Kevin. Sorry I missed your call. Please leave your name and number, and I will call you back as soon as I can. Thank you.
Feeling. And Sound Advice, as we know, is the best track on the record. Just wish that Down East Dick was a real person.
He is.
Yeah, it's Down East Dick. Thought I'd come by. John said he's got one of them filming contraptions set up in the old room, so we just come on down and see what he's doing here.
Good old friend, drummer boy, Ricky. He has split personality disorder, where he becomes Down East Dick.
Rick can just riff on that voice.
You just give him any subject, like it doesn't matter what it is. Food, like what town has the better dump, and he'll just riff on it for like pretty much until you stop him.
I've got Fred out back. He's getting his guitar all strung up. Boy, he ain't got no more than 4 strings on there at any point in time. And then Fred's coming over, he's bringing a 30 rack. We're gonna stop popping off, probably play some AC/DC, get a little Highway to Hell going.
What do you think about Sherwin Williams paints versus Benjamin Moore, and be like, friggin', in my basement, Benjamin Moore, they keep friggin' twice as long because, I'm only gonna paint half my friggin' house this year. And that's like kind of how he'll just like go for it. And that's a true talent, in my opinion.
And then Jimmy's coming up. He's bringing his rig up. I think I heard earlier. He's down on the power lines. He had a rot gutter all fucking stove up. So then Johnny's coming down. He's gonna hook the winch up. Gonna get the Jimmy out. Gonna bring him up. Then we're gonna get the old ladies out. Get everybody together. And we're just gonna have a good old time.
Laughing silently, I broke a sweat, dude.
So I'm trying to explain this to my dad, who has that accent as thick as all get out, and I'm trying to explain to him why it's funny that he does that voice. And my dad, because he has the accent, doesn't get it. That's just how he thinks people talk. So I texted Rick and I was like, call me and leave me a voicemail. Ford versus Chevy, go. So he leaves me that son of a bitch, which was 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes longer. And I showed it to my dad and he was like, yeah, sounds like a normal guy.
So we had this voice memo hanging out in our Dropbox for a while, and I kind of took it upon myself to sequence the record. And I was really happy with the flow of everything and the placement of everything, but I did not like the flow from Ghouls and Ghosts into the next song. So I was like, guys, I think we need an interlude track. And we were done with the record. Everyone was like tired, and everybody's like, what? Do you want us to write something? We're not going back in the studio. And I was like, hear me out.
Jared's a huge fan of Rick and his manisms, and was like, guys, I think we got to throw it on there. It's so funny. And I was like, I don't know. We had a couple guys that were like, maybe it would be funny, but is it like stupid? We really didn't know.
Half of the band was like, no way. And the other half was like, I don't care.
Jared was like pretty adamant. I for one, gave my honest opinion. I was like, I don't know if I'd think I'd rather not have it on there, but honestly, it is pretty funny, and if it does make it, I'm plenty happy. So
I promised them that I would cut it down because it's about 45 seconds longer than it is on the record.
We actually had to cut a lot of it out. I guess we didn't have to. Why did we cut so much of it out? There was so much good stuff in there.
I'm actually glad that it did because it's it's fucking incredible. Hometown Idiopathy.
Hit me with that clap, son.
Hometown Idiopathy.
I know you hate saying
Hometown Idiopathy. Hometown Idiopathy. This song is one of my the main theme riffs is one of my riffs, and it's Kevin also took this one. I did it on like a voice memo on my phone and sent it to him. He put it in a song. He like found a place for it. Kevin has a super good knack for figuring out riffs that I do, even in like bullshit conditions. Wind noise could be present. We could have, you know, I could be playing out of tune, and Kevin's like, "Oh, is this the riff?" And I'm like, "You got it. I did somehow." So he ends up kind of taking this riff, and he makes a song, sends it to us, and we're like, it's out of nowhere.
The demo just kind of showed up. I don't know who wrote it, when, how, why.
This one, I think, had my favorite Kevin riff.
That is mine.
Is that your riff? Yeah. Okay, well, sorry.
No,
So
actually, that's actually like a half and half.
It's like, well, my favorite Kevin riff is a Jack riff.
Yeah. My favorite Jack Kevin riff is a Kevin riff that Jack wrote, but Kevin co-wrote, co-starred by Jack, written and played by Benicio del Toro, who then later came and recorded the parts.
I randomly get sometimes like bursts of I just need to write shit, but I think this one is currently pretty much as it was arrangement wise when I wrote it.
It was also the one that we questioned the most, at least from a drum perspective, of getting a really good take on the intro riff, because the Kevin had kind of like thrown together this really like blistering part, and we were like, well, we'll rewrite it in the room and come up with something a little bit more believable. But I was determined that I was going to play what he had written in software, and we pulled it off, and it sounds awesome.
Something about the structure of the song to this day will fuck me up. I don't know what it is, but like if we haven't played the song for a couple weeks, it might take like one run through for me to remember it, to have it click. I love the structure. It just like doesn't, something about it, I don't know.
For as quick as it came together, we always have a bit of a tough time playing it live, because like aside from the riff that I dig, the rest of it's pretty much the same 4 chords in just different iterations. So it's really easy to get lost in like, which chunk of these 4 chords are we in? Or do we play this part twice or once?
And I think it fucks some of the other dudes up too. Yeah, I see Jack nodding over there.
Mm-hmm. I end up having to think like, what exact part is this the same of but slightly different that I'm going to play next in a slightly different tone going into the riff that I like? That's kind of how I have to like stack this in my brain.
This was another one that Jared came up with the lyrics and the melody for it really quick. Am I correct in that?
Well, no, actually.
No? Oh, well.
You guys didn't even know I was working.
But you demoed it out, right?
I demoed it out.
Okay.
No changes from the demo.
Right.
Like, you heard the.
So this one, another one where Jared on his own time like stewed over this one for a long time vocally, and then brought in his version of it, which I thought again was perfect.
Lyrically, that song was really tough for me because I had this vision of wanting to write a song about how a large percentage of the people I went to high school with, not all of you, fucking relax, but a larger percentage than I had anticipated turned out to be pretty racist, according to social media. It was surprising because it wasn't at all how I had pictured our student body when I was there, when we grew up in the same town, same life, same media. I at least try to think of myself or try my best to be accepting. And I didn't understand the difference, the X factor. So I wanted to write the song about that, and it just wasn't working. Everything I was writing like sounded like too preachy or like pretentious or something, and it was not working. I was listening to this song called Letter to My Friend off of one of my favorite albums since I was like 13 by this band Shelter. This album's called Mantra, which is not at all about what Hometown Idiopathy is about, but it kind of gave me a direction to go, because in that song he's talking to this one friend. So when I had the idea to like really narrow it down to, instead of talking to all these people, just talk to one person that I know, one person that I knew, suddenly the rest of the song fell into place and I knew how to approach it. And then the lyrics came really fast. In like a half hour I had the rest of the lyrics written, and it's some of my favorite lyrics on the record.
Oh yeah, the line sanguine and naive. I still don't think sanguine is a word. I've seen it on dictionary.com, but I still don't believe it. What's it mean? Is that a pasta?
I also love that everyone calls this song Hometown Idiopathy. So that's what I'm going to refer to it as from now on. Next
That's
song.
right.
Full Bleed. Coming into the record, my favorite song.
This one was a fun one. This one was, I think, 100% Jack musically.
This song is just Jack from front to back. It's everything we love about Jack.
I think there's parts of it that I had on this like weird GoPro video that we had going for like a small tour that we did where we're jumping in a pool or something. And I wrote it for that, like for some little GoPro video. And Rick ended up being like, yo, this is like really awesome. I love this song. I was like, really? You don't think it's too like poppy or something? And he's like, no, it's not at all.
He had riffed everything out, and it was him and Jack Squirtman, IG if anybody's looking for him, the drummer of now Roseview. The two of them had done the pre-production for this track.
He actually was in Studio B with me one day, and Kevin was like, you know, kind of showing him some things, you know. He was like, why don't you and Jack work on this demo that Jack has? And Jake was, you know, super excited about it. And he was like, let's do this thing. And we ended up doing like a full studio pre-production of it.
It was cool to hear somebody else's version of what I would do on a song, and to hear Jake write a part that he knew would be like a Rick part. It was almost like he was trying to, you know, jump into my mind, the type of part that I would write for this song.
Vocally, one of the more fun ones we did. I forget how the writing process went.
This was also a song where Jack was feeling really creative, and he demoed out some vocals for it. And he intended it all to just be filler lyrics. But in his filler lyrics were some of the best lines ever. In fact, the best line on the record. I'm gonna go right out and say it. The best lyric on this album was written by Jack as filler.
Jared and Kevin liked the lyrics so much that they wanted to name the album The Malleable Age, I believe.
The Scent, the Gate, the Malleable Age. That's the best line on the album.
Yeah, it's just like something that I like just wrote on a piece of paper as a filler lyric. Had no intention of that seeing the light of day. And, you know, it did, you know, and that's pretty cool.
I didn't erase anything he wrote, but I like added more lyrics. And the fact that his lyrics were so good, I actually wrote some of my favorite lines on the record also. And I don't know if Jack was trying to write like me, and then I am trying to write like Jack, but we ended up in this weird feedback loop that is responsible for some of the best lyrics on the record.
Also, like, the vocal melodies are pretty much the same as when Kevin and I demoed them, and Jared just really liked them, and I think that's pretty fun.
Full Bleed is a song that I wish I could do so many harmonies in live, but they're so fucking high. Either the harmonies are ridiculously high or they're happening while I'm supposed to be riffing, and you know, I can't riff and harmony at the same time. I just can't do it. I don't know. Jack's amazing for that, but I can't do it. I don't get it.
You know, it also has I have like this scream in it that's just like a fucking, it's just like a woman falling down the stairs.
There's some cool stuff in the bridge. Oh, this scream. It's the worst.
Also, Jack has a scream that was on the demo that he really assumed we were gonna delete. But the moment I heard it, me and Duncan were like, that's the fucking best part of the album. That's absolutely staying.
I think it was just a placeholder for the big breakdown. He just hollered this falling off a cliff Yosemite Sam bullshit. It's this thing. I don't know why everyone's so in love with it. That'd be the one. That's good.
It was like similar to that.
Everyone else in the band heard and they're like, that's staying. And I thought it was just a joke for a long time. I thought they were just trying to piss me off.
I think we only had one fight in the making of this album, and it was about that scream. Because I think Jack and Kevin were like, it's stupid, it's gotta go. And me and Duncan were like, no, it's the best part of the album. You may as well fucking scrap the album if that scream's gone. And Rick had to sway us.
But I got outvoted, and it's in the song. As soon as the bridge hits, you'll hear it. Listen for it next time if you haven't heard it, because I tried to bury it. It's in there. That's literally just this stupid thing.
The one regret that I will forever have about this song, there are definitely mixed opinions in the band about this, but that just blood-curdling scream in the bridge should have been like 20 decibels louder.
Thankfully, Rick made the right choice, and the scream's on the album, and that's why the album's incredible.
Old Growth was a product of me listening to a lot of like High on Fire and Sleep and Black Sabbath, and just like wanting to get some like really doomy sounds coming out of a guitar and a guitar amp.
That song really was another exciting song on the record because it was another thing that Too Late to Hero hadn't really done before. With a really vibey, really open song, and I think this album needed it.
I think this is probably the most interesting track on the record in terms of being kind of a departure, I guess you would say, from what you would expect to be on a Too Late album. It came from a single riff that Jack had put on the Dropbox that was this really like creepy, almost like black metal-y sounding riff.
I kind of wrote this like chord thing, and it was just a loop. There was really nothing to it, you know. Honestly, it was just like a dark and stormy chord. Once again, Kevin, you know, got to give him all the props in the world. He took it and you know, he kind of wrote a song around it.
And I had just gotten a new pedal that sounded like disgusting, and I think that influenced the writing of this one a lot.
It's right there.
That one. Is that even remotely?
Yeah. It has autofocus.
Holy shit, man. How do you do that?
We had a ton of pedals going. I ended up modding a few pedals shortly before we got into the studio, and we ended up using a modded Metal Zone along with a fully distorted amp. I think maybe this one. No, it was the orange. This one. That. Yeah, that one. But we went full rip on this thing with the Metal Zone that I modded. And, you know, by the way, kids, Metal Zone is not that bad of a pedal, so fucking take it easy. I used like a whole bunch of flangers throughout this whole album and on that song. Flangers also dope, just FYI.
One of my favorite parts about tracking this song, I'm still mad at some idiot on Facebook for this. So I was playing this part and I wanted it to be gross and awful on purpose. So like I'd play the chords and I'd let it ring out and feed back and get all squirrely. Like on paper, it just sounds terrible. We're like streaming our guitar tracking on Facebook Live, and some kid was watching me track that part. He was like, "Why is he letting it feed back? He's not even a good guitar player. He doesn't know how to stop it from feedback," and just went on like a tirade of what a terrible guitar player I was. And you're amazing, but you're junk.
When we recorded Old Growth, I hadn't fully written the bass parts yet, and I think that's definitely the song where I got the most creative with what I was doing. And to the point now that when I listen back to the song, I tend to focus in on the bass, just because I just think it was cool. I'm doing some cool shit.
All the weird ideas I had for the song, I had no idea what to do with the drums. So we couldn't get in the practice space for whatever reason. Maybe all our gear was still in the van. So we had Rick come up here and just like program out his drums.
That one was like one that I heard, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do for drums the moment that I heard it.
Which I'm glad we did it that way, because the drums he wrote, I don't know if I necessarily would have thought of, and they were perfect for this track.
I worked on the vocals for this one as well. I wrote like the first half of the song vocally.
He had verse 1 done, the pre-chorus done, and then Jared came in and banged out verse 2 and the chorus.
It was the first time that him and I vibed on. It is vibe. I'm saying vibe like I'm cool. Like, guys, I promise you this. I'm the worst.
You're a vibe daddy.
I'm a vibe daddy right now. So this is the first time that Jared and I were really like in tune with what we were doing, vocally and lyrically. He took where I was going, and it was like as if we were one person writing the vocals.
Production-wise, this one was a lot of fun because I did a lot of things that we never do in this band. I kept having all these weird ideas. I had Jared talk the post-chorus part into the microphone, and I did all these weird things to it. So, like, this is buried under I feel like this was the song that if we were going to do anything for, that we never got a chance to do, like, let's just do all of it.
Definitely the underrated track of the album. I think Old Growth is sick. I think it sounds like a Black Sabbath song. And I think people should request it so we actually can play it live for once. Shit. Fuck.
That was fucking
That was the
dope.
best!
All right, track 10, Oscar bait?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Shit. How does this song go?
I was pretty certain that when the name Oscar bait came about, that it was about feeding a Oscar fish. And Jared said that it's not that, it's actually about acting. And I did not like that. I wanted to be about a fish so friggin' bad.
Really glad that Jared named this song Oscar bait, because I know what the actual term means, but I'm just forever gonna think it just means giving your friend Oscar a hand.
It's actually the first song we started writing for the record, and the last one we finished.
We were practicing and I guess writing at that time in Jared's dad's basement in Berwick.
We started demoing the song back when Aaron was still in the band, and Rick was on bass. And actually, probably the best riff in that song, one of the best riffs on the record, Rick wrote the riff on bass.
One of the best riffs on the record. That was all Rick. Came in with that on bass. That was pretty tight. Thank you, Rick.
Just want to make sure that he gets his due credit.
This song got picked up and put down a lot throughout the process. I feel like I remember we kept forgetting that we had it. We'd like get ahead and work on other stuff and then be like, oh yeah, we didn't quite finish this one.
You know, I think it's one of the sleepers on the album. We don't often talk about it. It was kind of, the riffs are kind of odd because they're mine. And so in that regard, sometimes I can put out a riff that's like very weird to a normal person. So Kevin learning those is like, yeah, that's the interval that we're going to, and I'm like, yeah, and he's, it's on the record, huh? And I'm like, yeah, and he's like, sick.
This song was another challenge for me.
As far as the guitar parts go, they're very chromatic, so I find we found that it was pretty difficult to write vocals to.
What I wrote and demoed, I was certain was bad. And I was certain everybody was gonna hate it. And I sent it off to Kevin. I was like, it's not very good. I can change it if you want.
Jared nailed it. Honestly, it's so much better than anything that I could have thought he would put on it. So when I heard it, I was like, holy shit, Jared, thank you so much for doing this.
Me and Jared were very stuck on vocals for this one for a while when we were working stuff out. We wrote the chorus in my living room one night, and that took like hours. We just had like severe writer's block.
That song also has a pretty cool chorus. It's like has a very very pop vibe, which is catchy, and I love that shit so much.
Oh, is this the song with the chorus that had the vocals taken out that I wanted to stay in?
Oh yeah, you were pissed.
I was pissed. The chorus of Oscar Bait originally had kind of like a singy back and forth, almost like Coheed and Cambria style vocal, backing vocal. And when I listened back to the final tracked vocals to the song, I was pretty pissed off because they took out the backing vocal, which was the best part of the song. So fuck you guys for doing that. Damn, I'm really aggressive.
This is really good because I wrote the part and Kevin's exact words were, "It's too Coheed and Cambria," and I went, "You're right," and you are pissed.
The bridge, I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions for this one. We were gonna do like a down chorus, like a Ground is Lava style thing. That was one plan. We felt like it needed something before the last chorus hit. So when I was putting the demo together, it was just a blank space, and we were like, we'll figure it out later. So just to be funny, I found some old like 40s country clip and just put it in there, and the guys were like, yeah, that's the song now. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that's funny. Like, do you want to write something else? And they're like, no, that's it. And I was like, oh, cool.
I actually, at the time, I had ended up writing the drum part in software and sent it to Aaron, and because he didn't really have like an idea of exactly what he wanted to do, so I had like started demoing things out on drums and sent it to him, and we kind of started playing it in the room, and then shortly thereafter he ended up quitting the band. And I don't know, I'm sorry, Aaron, if you were upset that I wrote the part in software and that's why you quit the band. I'm sorry, but I'm not, because I really wanted to play drums in this band, and I'm glad you're gone.
That's what this song is. I like this song a lot, but it always strikes me as like our boot camp for this iteration of the band, and just trying to feel each other out, where we were gonna go, what we were gonna do. So at times it can sound a little disjointed, but I think that's because we were just figuring it out. This was the first song that we had done. So it always kind of holds a cool place for me for that reason. Last track, Stockholm Syndrome, A New Spin Thereof. This one was this was what I remember being the most collaborative one we did, aside from Royal Blood Loss.
This song is another one of my riffs, and I wrote this one in my like office. I've got an office at my apartment, guys. It's yeah, it's a closet, okay. It's a closet. My office is a closet, but I wrote some hot ass riffs in there with a pod, line 6 pod.
I think probably the most fun track to pre-pro. This was the one other track on the album that we wrote entirely in the room.
I wrote this riff, and I forget what we were doing. Kevin, what were we doing in the live room? We're practicing.
There was another band that was from out of town that was preparing for a show that they were playing live, and so they were practicing in our space So we were practicing in this room.
I was working in Studio A downstairs at the time. So the big tracking room was open, so we just set up in there. I had a drum kit set up already.
We got to just kind of jam in that riff, and it was feeling good. We were kind of like motivated to get the song done, and it was perfect. Kevin came up with this awesome Suga, like staccato style part. That's the verses.
Taking that and then like dropping it a half step and doing this like really punchy, like driving riff. And it was like that perfect moment where it's like, this is that thing that I'm just gonna play on the hi-hat and it's gonna sound heavy as fuck. Like, doesn't need to be on a crash cymbal.
That slams harder than almost anything on the record, in my opinion. Jared went full Phil Anselmo on that part, which I loved. You know, the main riff is also the chorus, which, you know, is so good. I love if there's a riff over a chorus. That can really take me places, you know, heavenly places.
Like, I think this is cool because we found new ways to get like technical, and I'm sure a lot of YouTube guitar geeks will be like, "That's not technical at all." That's the, but it is for us.
We wrote the entire song in here and we like wrapped up and we were like, I think we got a song. I think we're done. Should we like grab a cell phone recording? And Kevin was like, my dudes, we're in Studio A. Let me just go turn the board on.
And I think Rick or Jack was like, all right, we should get like an iPhone recording of this. I was like, we're in the live room. Like, it would take me 5 minutes to just set up some mics and like record it for real.
We ended up demoing it out right here in Studio A from start to finish. It's the exact way on the record as we demoed it. We didn't frig with it at all, you know, as we were recording it. We just sat down and played it. It has a super crushing outro, and that's kind of been a trend for Too Late.
When Too Late the Hero first started, one of our favorite songs we had written was Faces of Death. And we put that as the last song on our first full length. And our fans really embraced that song. So the last song on records has always been something that at least I wanted to make sure was special.
I'm just headbanging thinking about it. And we started doing every one of our records with like a really crushing riff.
It was really important to me. Like, when I heard the song and just that groove in the song, I was like, this is the last song on the record. This is our exit statement for this album.
Or recording.
Yep. So Jared came in with his like pre-prod version of the vocals, and he didn't like them.
I had demoed out the entire song vocally, and I wasn't happy with it. I was like, this has gotta go. I need to rewrite everything. And everybody was like, no, the everything in the song is great.
And it's funny that you do this long enough and you can kind of start to see through demoitis, people call it, where the part that he had didn't change at all. But when we recorded it for real, I was like, let's just give it a shot as is. And if we need to adjust, we will. But let's start with what we have.
And for some reason, when I went into the studio to track the actual vocals for the song, we just hit on a vibe.
And he just like hit on the right vibe, and the lyrics didn't change, and the melody or the meter didn't change, but just the way he hit it, and even himself, like, he turned around and he loved it all of a sudden. And it's funny, like, just the difference in vibe that can make like an okay part in anyone's mind a great part.
Just the way the performance that Kevin got out of me, I completely 180'd on this song, and I love it. I love the chorus. I love the verses. Like, he just got me where I needed to be on this song.
I love how Jared's performances came out on that outro of Stockholm. Definitely one of the high points of Jared's performances, scream-wise, for the album. I really love how it hits. It hits really hard.
This is another one where I didn't think Jack could sing any higher, and then he did. So that's a cool little 3-part harmony. So at the top here, you see, you got some Jared and some Donkey going, which is cool. So that's some cool, nice stuff and things. And then you throw in Homeboy at the top of that. And he's gonna be bummed that I solo this, but it's just so good. Which is like an astronomically high note that I didn't think he could get anywhere near. Do you do that live?
No. While we were demoing out the vocals for Stockholm, Jared and I had both written 2 completely different vocal parts for the bridge. And what's funny is that in the end, the part that I wrote became the part that Jared sang, and the part that Jared wrote became the part that I sang on the final track.
The bridge I wasn't really that stoked on for a while. I feel like we never really finished it. I think Jared had the idea of like slowly starting to stack the dudes vocally as it went, where it starts off with just Jared, and then Jack comes in, and then Duncan comes in and harmonizes with that, so you got like the Taking Back Sunday sort of vibe again.
Where were you when the trouble started? Past the guilt from filthy hairs to clean. There's a price on faithful, faithless. No rest until your victim was pristine.
Which was a big old, a little bit of a rat's nest trying to figure out melodies that like didn't clash with each other for that, but I'm pretty stoked on how that came out.
And that's the end of the album right there.
Perfect.
Sweet.